Wow, I just never get tired of watching Mr. Hogan swing a golf club. Totally cool. So what I wanted to talk today about is the way Mr. Hogan used the handle on the golf club. And I have a sneaking suspicion. There's something that I talk about at length in my instructional documentary, The Hogan Code, which I highly recommend. I think it's pretty interesting, all the things that I talk about in the Hogan Code, because they are things that you don't really hear very many other places. And one of the things that I talk about is how I believe Mr. Hogan used the handle. And I believe Mr. Hogan was a big fan of baseball. I think he played a lot of it growing up. His older brother, Royal, was not only a club champion at Colonial, but a very fine baseball player as well. And I know that Ben Hogan talked about Ted Williams quite a bit. So at any rate, what I'd like to talk about is the way Mr. Hogan used the handle. Now, if we look at this series of photographs, we're going to see something pretty darn interesting as he comes into the ball. This is a famous shot. I think it's interesting because you see the supination. He's like rolling the club under, getting that bow in the back of his hand. But the really interesting thing to me is the next still frame. You know, these the old swing videos it's very difficult to see what he's doing, but these photographs are very important. So in this next frame, we can see how Mr. Hogan is, you know, going after the ball. I always talk about the lower body. You see his right knee going in at the ball. That's what Jody Vasquez talked to me about a great deal. But it's just interesting how he seems to be leveraging the handle, in my opinion. So in this picture, what I did is I put a dot where the butt end of the handle is right before Mr. Hogan releases the club down to the ball. Now in the next picture, what we're going to see is that point has moved up quite a bit. I'm estimating it's, you know, pretty much under the, you know, the heel of his left hand. But that's a pretty decent move in the upward direction. So this is what I talk about in the Hogan Code as the push-pull. So if we look at these pictures together, you know, we're going to see how high the butt end of that handle rises through impact. And I believe that's what gave him that extra whip right at the last second. Something that helped him to really compress the ball. And it's just something that I think is very interesting to talk about. I think it's an interesting conversation to have. And as we look at Mr. Hogan, I mean, I still believe it's the finest golf swing of all time. So I hope you find that interesting. I highly recommend checking out the Hogan Code. I think it's a darn fine instructional documentary. And of course, I have a new movie out and it's called Mr. Hogan. So hit 'em long and hit 'em straight.